media outlets in Missouri. He's also been on the Fast Company magazine and the Huffington Post. Gus and his wife Farrah and their dog Taffy live in Jeff City. This is a real treat. It's a pleasure for me to introduce Gus Wagner.
I'm going to leave on the high note there. I appreciate the applause, guys. Thanks a lot. And it's always good to have the dreaded right after lunch presentation. So if anybody feels like nodding off or anything, I'm not going to take it personal. So I had this position before. Actually, I've been in this room before. I just realized when I was walking down the hallway in here. This was the room back in 1988. I did the high school DECA state championships for food marketing. And I got a trophy. It's still on my desk, actually. So, I have a lot of memories being back here at the Lodge of the Four Seasons. So, Michael, everybody, thank you for having me here today. I own the Rocket Group. That's our cool logo there. I think you've got a handout, maybe. There's some handout for information. If not, we'll get you something here later. As Michael said, I've done a lot of things in my life. Spent 22 years in business, doing sales and marketing, which is all communications. Opened the Rocket Group for the past 13 years, since 2001. A great year to open a business, by the way. I spent 8 years concurrently with my 13 years as a chief of staff in the Missouri State Senate for Senator Dan Clements out of Marshville, Missouri, representing the good folks down in the Ozarks. He was here from the Ozarks. Down around Springfield. Very good, thank you. Always been involved in my communities and such, and a 5-time certified social media strategist. So we won't spend a lot of time on social media. We'll touch on it a little bit. And the one thing I want to say, if y'all have questions as we're going through this, feel free, or if anything sounds like a little crap, feel free to call me out, raise your hand, shout my name, whatever you need to do. We have 1 hour? 1 hour, okay. And if you'll kind of give me a time or give me a jumping jack or something when I'm getting close. Very good. So if you are so inclined to be on social media here in the room, if you've got a signal, we're at Rocket Group on Twitter. Very good. Oh, there's no cats in the room, is there? Cats? I can use a laser pointer? Okay. So we're at Rocket Group on Twitter. Search for Rocket Group anywhere across the internet. You'll find my smiling face and some of our work. So what we're going to talk about today, everybody can see the slides. We didn't bring on lights or anything? Okay, they're all going to be kind of graphic like this. We're going to talk about the media and you and them. And I want to applaud the folks who raised their hands a second ago that have done the media interviews and such as part of your job, but you haven't had the media training before. So it's always dangerous to walk out there on that line, kind of net. So we're going to try to give you a little bit of a safety net here today. And hopefully none of your press conferences will be as detailed as the president's. So, the first thing when it comes to media training, communications, and talking to the press is you've got to have a message. Okay? What is a message? Well, a message is an idea that connects. And now, who do you need that idea to connect to? You need to connect to the local radio reporter who might be talking to you on the telephone, the newspaper reporter who might be in your office. Or do you actually need your message to be connecting with their audiences? The third one is the correct answer. So we're going to talk to you today about connecting with those audiences and being able to handle the interview process diligently and handle the preparation building up to those interviews in a very beneficial way. This could be a win-win situation for both you and the media. By the way, there are hugs available somewhere, so this would be a good message. There's a sign outside of a church. Need a hug, come in, we have plenty. So the media are only the conduit. They are the newspaper, they are the internet, they are the radio, they are the television that your audiences are using and that you are using to get your message out. To answer those questions regarding a news story, oh, there's a clicker on the bottom too. There's all kinds of buttons on this thing. To get your message out there, to answer the story, to answer what it is that the public wants to know about regarding your work, your profession, or things going on in your community, which which your profession might be involved in. So you're not trying to convince the reporter as much as you are trying to convince the audience of the media, of the reporter. By the way, who's from what you consider a large market? Who's raise your hand? The St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield, Columbia. And who's from Carroll County? Who's from our smaller communities in the rest of the state? Everybody else? Very good. Who's from the smallest county? Let's say, who's got the smallest office? Let's say it that way. That's you? Where are you from? Kirksville. Very good. But you could make a drive down south. So what does the audience care about? What is going to make your audience raise their hands up and smile as big as this guy? They're going to care about one thing and one thing only. What's in it for me? What is it that you're doing, your profession is doing, that whether it's handling a case, managing your office, or dealing with other factors that your office deals with. What's in it for them? Why should they care? They're your investor. The community is your investor. The reader is your investor as far as a taxpayer, right? So they are going to, well, some of them are going to pay attention to what's going on with your office. Some are going to be apathetic to what's going on in your office. But you've got to develop that message that's going to resonate with them. So they go, oh, I should care about this because this impacts my community, my wallet, the justice system. You've got to make them think in the bigger pictures that they might not be thinking about in a general course of their day related to the work that you all are doing in the public defender's offices. And, has anybody recognize that guy? The public is generally going to have a love or hate relationship with everything that you do, or I do, or any of our other clients deal with. Okay, they're going to love the work that you're doing, they're going to appreciate the work that you're doing, they're going to appreciate the hours that you put in, the amount of cases that you handle, or they might hate y'all just because that goes against something that they believe in, or they had a bad relation, or somebody they know had a bad interaction with the public defender's office. So they're going to have a negative connotation for you. Your audience is going to be that sweet spot in the middle. Okay? That's who you need to aim for. You need to convince those folks who might have a little recognition of what you do, might not have any idea what you do, but talk in those general terms, broad, informative, general terms that answer the questions, address the issues, and convince that middle. Because if you're going to spend all your time talking to the folks that love you, you're not moving any needles, are you? You're not convincing anybody. You're preaching to the choir. You're going to spend all the time over here talking to the people who don't love you as much. Well, now you're just spinning your wheels and wasting your time because they're never going to be convinced one way or the other. And the same goes for the media as well. The media might have, I don't know if you've ever heard that there's a bias in the media. I'm not saying there is or isn't. But they might have preconceived notions or no notion at all about the work that you do. So if you keep your comments, your answers to the questions, everything that you're discussing with the media to that middle point, you'll be much better off than throwing gas on a fire of talking to the people that don't like you or throwing sugar on the candy. I'm trying to draw an analogy. Trying to sweeten the pot of the pot that's already too sweet because they love you already. Senator McCaskill just last Saturday was out. She was doing an event, and this was a quote that she came up with that I thought illustrated what I just said very, very well. And it's this way in politics, it's this way in business, it's this way in everything. A third of the people are going to be with you, a third of the people are going to be against you, and the ones in the middle probably don't care. Or they don't know that they should care. Okay? So she's got 35% of Missouri thinks I'm Satan on a horse. They're watching Fox News. I got 35% of Missouri that thinks I can do no wrong. They're watching MSNBC. And I got 30% of Missouri watching The View, and they think we're all crazy. And you're going to find that the more you're out there talking to the public or talking to the media, doing these things that are outside the normal, for what you went to school for, really. You're going to find that those audiences are going to segment pretty much in thirds. connect with these people? How are we going to connect with the media? How are we going to connect with their audiences? How are we going to do these things? Well, the first thing we've got to do is lay some groundwork. And we're going to decide who in your offices and regarding what issues who's going to be your spokesperson. Who's going to be that person that's going to take the call at 3 in the morning regarding a case? Or 8:05 in the morning as your coffee's still hot about an issue regarding your office. Well, if it's casework, obviously you've got some boundaries there that you can discuss or can't discuss regarding those issues. And you do have a media policy for the organization and for your offices that other inquiries or some other inquiries go up to Michael, correct?
If I can interject and talk
Please,
about that for a moment.
please do.
Talk about it early on. So I think most of the inquiries from the media are going to fall into two categories. Okay? One, about your individual cases, and it's our view that that's for you guys to handle, and that's part of this training, is to learn how to best handle interacting with the media on your individual cases, but also on inquiries that affect the system overall. And on these, we kind of want to have some consistency across the state in how we respond. We want to not step on our foot if we're having good conversations with a particular legislator, to say something negative that's going to disrupt those conversations in a particular jurisdiction. So here's what we're asking. It's not completely formalized yet, but a few weeks ago, we were getting a lot of inquiries after the ABA released the report on the crime study. To handle it in the following way. If you get an inquiry on a request that affects the entire system, call me as a public information officer, better or worse. Find out the following things. Find out who's asking the question, what the reporter's name is, or her name is, what the outlet they're with, what generally they want to know about, and what the deadline is. We'll discuss it. We'll talk to you, get your ideas, but then we'll try to build some sort of cohesive, consistent response and allow you to give the response. We'll just kind of have some sort of process where we make sure that it's a consistent message. Because the reporter doesn't want to talk. The reporter wants to talk to you folks as the local representative who's local to the media outlet that's doing the story. So that's what we want to accomplish, is just have a point where you reach out to me, talk to me about who's asking the question, what they're asking, when their deadline is, and then we'll quickly formulate a response and allow you to deliver that. So that's because we've talked about making that change. We thought it was appropriate to do this media training.
Very good. So I think Michael just volunteered to be the person on the other end of the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning. What he just did. Thank you for doing such work. And it is important that you're available 24/7 because while 99% of the calls from the media, especially at our smaller community level, are not going to be at 3 o'clock in the morning, there may be instances where somebody will have to be available. And so when those calls do come in, there needs to be a system in place, whether it's somebody in your office or up to the state office who's going to respond to these inquiries. So always be you should always, whoever that spokesperson is, should always be the spokesperson. Also, I'm going to suggest that, and we suggest this on everything, from setting up Facebook pages to having 2 admins on a Facebook page to having somebody who's got a backup phone. Always carry a spare, because something might happen when your appointed spokesperson is out of the office, in court, on vacation, struck by lightning, whatever. So y'all need to spread the information so more than one person, it's not siloed into one person. You've got a backup there who can address these questions, answer these questions, has Michael's cell phone number, and can be there in the absence of the appointed spokesperson. So always carry a spare. Joe, thank you for stepping up.
Don't hand out my cell phone number without handing out his.
Well, we can just forward your phone to his phone. So when we talk about the messaging, and what Michael just said was a good lead into this next section about developing a plan, a cohesive response to the questions that you're typically going to get or generally going to get from media, from the public, from whatever. And we're going to, in the end of this, we're going to build a map. But the starting point of the map is we've got to build the center of the map, the starting point. And we call that our home base. And I really tried to get Cardinals and Royals images, but some reason they weren't cooperating with my program here, so we got the Giants. Yay. So, be safe. I heard it. Is there a snake in the room? Be safe at home. Your home base is critical. Your home base is the center of your message. It's a short statement, 21-ish words, that are going to be the basis of every key point, every talking point, every answer that you've got going on. It's your elevator pitch. Who are you? What is this issue about? Okay? It's consisting of positive themes, positive words. We do this, we do that. This is why the sky is blue and the rainbows are bright. You keep that message. And it's going to spin off into these other points of the map that we're going to discuss that are going to get to the key points. But this is your starting point. This is your core message, okay? Your home base. I made a sample home base for a professional defender. If I ask you what you do, if you're doing a radio interview, tell me about your job. And this might be right or wrong. This is what I came up with, though. I protect the constitutional rights of citizens who cannot afford an attorney by providing quality representation and zealous advocacy, helping foster an effective criminal justice system for the people of Missouri, or Missouri, depending on what part of town you're in. Okay, so this would be a home base, a sample home base for you all. This actually clicks in just about 30 words, I think, so it's a little bit long, but it gets to a lot of work, a lot of responsibilities. It's hard to make that concise, as you know. So this would be for, like, what do you do? What does the office do? Tell me what the public defender does. You start here. If you had an issue, if you had a case, if you had the work study that the university did, you would develop a home base, a center point regarding that issue, and then we would, what we call, bridge into other topics. We started our home base, then we were going to cross a bridge to our other key points, okay? So when you're answering a question from the media, you start with your home base, but you start the conversation from your home base regarding the issue, okay? And then we're going to bridge it to the other key topics. We do all these things, we're zealous advocates, but you should also know we do this. We've represented 1,000 people in Carroll County over the last year. We've done this little caseload. These are the issues regarding our office. These are the issues we talked to the legislature about. And your map is going to be a circle. We're going to see in a second, but it's going to be a circle with a bunch of other circles coming out of it that are linked back to your main point, to your home base, okay? So, and everything that those joints in between are the bridges, just like the London Bridge here, or Tower Bridge, or whichever one this is. I've been watching a lot of BBC lately, so this one jumped out to me. So you should also know. And the transition should relate to the question asked, or at least the topic being discussed. Okay, so if we get past your home base question, we're zealous advocates. Well, what else is it that you do? Well, you should also know we do X, Y, and Z. Represent folks who can't afford to represent themselves, or other key points that you want to address in your conversation with the reporter, in your interview with the reporter. But then you're bridging it to your key point. You address the question, and then bridge it to what you really want to say. If they didn't ask the question succinctly, you need to have your key points there, have this established, so you know what key points you need to say in this interview. Okay? So you would say, answer the question and say, you should also know, equally important, in addition, these are things that we do. And by the way, we're going to send the slides and I'm reading your video, so don't worry about your notes as much, unless that's the way you learn. There you go. That's great. Don't be evasive. Don't dodge any questions. If he asks you about topic A, don't answer with topic B, because that's showing you're evasive. And just like a good attorney, you're going to hammer down on that evasiveness and wonder why you skipped topic A to go to topic B, right? The reporter is going to be trained to do the same thing. And something I need to go back to, when we're talking about the reporters, well, we'll get there in a second. In the pregame, and here I made the hockey reference, keep it consistent. You've got to prepare, not just be prepared for when that phone call comes, but also be prepared from the time that the reporter calls, do you have time to do an interview with me on XYZ topic? Yes, let's schedule this time. I'm not available right now. I need a couple minutes. I need an hour. Try to do this tomorrow morning. That's your pregame time to prepare for the interview. Okay? Prepare yourself and them. So you've already got your message developed, hopefully. If not, yes, Mike.
I just want to stress the importance. I mean, for folks that don't want to experience dealing with the press, when I first got my first set of press calls, I thought I had to answer right then and there. You know, because they're pretty good. The press is pretty good at getting you to, run our deadline. We need this, and if you don't, it's at your peril. And that's not the case. You know, you can hit pause, right, and say now's not a good time. When's your deadline? I can get back to you a little later, and that gives you an opportunity to regroup, think about what you want to say. So you don't have to answer questions right there.
Exactly. And you all are active in your communities. You all heard what he said?
Yes.
You do have the ability to hit the pause button, request additional time, request time to schedule. For those of us in the St. Louis area, or grew up in the St. Louis area, you know who Elliot Davis is, the ambush style reporter. That's a very isolated situation. But it might come up in your all's type of work. Now, don't get scared because I just said that. Most of the people are going to be people that you know in your community. They're going to be the local newspaper reporter that you've been reading for years, or they're representing an organization that you've been dealing with for years, or have been a consumer of for years. So you know that they're not out to get you, they're out to build a story. So you have the ability to hit a pause button and request time to schedule that interview and get your information together. So also, it's something else when you're requesting a time, you should ask them some general questions. What is the issue? What is your angle, basically? Ask these type of leading questions so you know what they're going to be asking, not right off the bat, but you'll have an idea of what they're going to be asking you. And you can also prep the interviewer, as much as you're prepping yourself. Inform them of your boundaries. If it's casework, you have the very distinct boundaries that you cannot talk about in the media. And what we see a lot of is here in Missouri, all over in Missouri, it's very heavily here in mid-Missouri where we have the University of Missouri, MIZ. Very good. Where we've got the School of Journalism. We have student reporters all over the field in mid-Missouri, from our newspapers to our radio stations to the television stations. KOMU is a student laboratory. That's why you see so many young reporters churning and burning through KOMU Channel 8. They are doing an aggressive placement program to other media outlets throughout the state, throughout the world actually, but very focused in the state, to get basically internship reporters into local newspapers, into local radio stations, into the other television stations and such. So you also have a huge opportunity here to educate somebody who probably has no idea what a public defender is, no idea how the justice system works, and no idea what your role in all of this is. So you're going to have to gauge them to see what their knowledge base is, because they could come to you, and I've been taught with this several times with student reporters, where we've had to educate them on the issues, and what might have been a 5-minute interview with a professional, seasoned Mike Wallace type reporter turns into a 2-hour conversation because you're spending more time educating them about all the issues and such. But that gives you a huge opportunity to craft the story. Now, they have every right to take all in 2 hours and craft their story the way they are, but the more information, the more education you can give them about your topics, your profession, your whatever, especially your boundaries with these folks who might not know your profession, you need to establish those up front. Offer additional information. Well, here's some websites, here's some information, here's the CaseNet link that you can go and get preliminary information about these cases, and I can answer up to this point, but you can educate them on the case or the questions that they might not have the education about. And, as Michael said, always respect their deadlines. Your television reporters are generally going to be very, very quick. We got a very short window if it's a television interview. Your newspaper reporters, if it's a daily, you probably got a couple hours. Radio reporter, you probably got a couple hours. This is probably being banked for the next day. It's generally not, unless you're a studio guest or it's a call-in show, you're generally not going to have a very short deadline as for the next day. The weekly newspapers, you've got multiple days. Those of us in our smaller communities where we have a weekly newspaper, you've got multiple days, but don't leave them hanging. Respect their deadline, get back to them as quick as possible, and answer their questions as to the best of your abilities. Again, offer those supporting sources. Well, this is the information. This is Westlaw. This is whatever kind of information you can give them to back up your information. And if you don't know the answer to something, it's perfectly okay to say, I don't know, but let me get that for you. Okay? Whether it's, you've got to get case files out or get information or get statistics, etc. Follow up and answer those questions that you promised you'd answer. Don't leave them hanging. Because if you leave them hanging, now you're creating a bad relationship with a reporter who's probably going to be covering you multiple times. And two, they're going to be pestering you for that information, so you're going to have to do it anyway. And so you answer their questions, you bridge to the key points, and then you bridge back to your home base. Okay? It's a map. It's a message map is what it's called. Now, the other thing you need to do is avoid short answers. Yes, it's human nature just to answer yes, no, affirmative, negative, never, not now, not often type of answers. But the more information you can give, the better off you're going to be, and the better off you're going to avoid being painted into a corner by giving a 100% certain answer, such as a firm, positive, or negative comment. Okay?
Can I give an example of being screwed on that? I may have mentioned this to some of you. Had an editorial person from one of the major papers call me, and right after the Waters decision came down, and the question was, well, this is really going to force judges to deal with your problem, isn't it? I said, yes, I guess so. The thing was written, Kat Kelly says, this is really going to force judges to deal with our problem, which was not exactly the words I would have used because it really pissed off a lot of judges that I was like, waving this. But by just saying yes, I adopted her words as opposed to my own words. So I learned not to just answer yes, but to speak in sentences, so they have to quote your sentence, not theirs.
We appreciate your confession.
Okay.
But she's exactly...
Prices.
Now, if you can go sit in the corner? No. And thank you for that. That's great. She's exactly right. Don't allow yourself to get painted in the corner because your words, we'll talk about this in a second again, this is called foreshadowing, have huge impact. Whether that newspaper is being published and mailed out to 14,000 people, one judge reads that and is going to wreck, well, not wreck, but you probably got an earful, right? So it just takes one person to read your comments and take them in their own perception versus what the reality of what you were trying to say, to take that the wrong way and make a mountain out of a molehill. Although I know it wasn't exactly a molehill. So make things visual as well. Anything you can do to illustrate your answers through, if it's television, you can offer photos or video and such. Bring them in, it's talking about the profession, bring them into your office, show them your office, let them give what's called B-roll, where they're just filming what's going on here in the room or in your office. Give those visual examples. If you don't have a visual medium, it's print or radio, talk in illustrative terms where you're painting the mental picture. These are the number of cases. These are the number of resources we have. This is the lack of resources we have. This is what this decision means regarding the American justice system. Paint those visuals there as much as possible. Again, staying away from these short, succinct yes-no answers. The more illustrative you can be, the better off you're going to be and a better story that you're going to have about what you're commenting on. And always cover it. Always cover it. What I mean by that is, like, I'm video recording this session right here for you guys to use in your future use. And these guys are both fans of recording as well. Get a digital recorder, set up a Skype, whatever it is that you need to do to record your conversations with the media. And confirm, say, I need to have this recorded. I feel comfortable having this recorded. 99.9% of the time, the reporter there who's recording it as well is going to say, Doc, this is perfectly fine. And the reason you want to have it recorded is if you're misreported. We talk about words being taken out of context. You see that phrase often in the media. Well, that just becomes his word versus his word, or her word versus her word, because the interview subject did not record the interview, so they can't really prove that it was taken out of context. So record, and then if you ever do get into trouble, if the judge is yelling at you, well, just judge, I'd like to press play here and let you see what I actually said. Or you can respond to the media and request a correction, which will be printed next to the obituaries and the one ads, in very small print in the newspaper. But you'll have something to cover it if you need something to be covered, okay?
Gus, along the same lines
Yes,
of protecting yourself, I trust the words that come out of my pen much more than the words that come out of my mouth. So one of the strategies that I'm holding, and I notice some reporters are open to it, if I say, hey, listen, I'm running out to a meeting, in your case, running out to court, you want to just email me your questions, you know, I'm happy to get back an answer by your deadline. It shows that you're working with them, and then also maybe you're more relaxed, communicate in writing. You know, in your experience, is that
asking for the questions in writing is one way to do it. It depends on their editor or their traffic manager, whoever their boss is, whether that's going to be allowed or not, because that doesn't give the reporter the full ability to do the follow-up questions. It turns into an email chain if it gets into that. They want the interviews to be more live and driven. But because of time constraints, because of the digital tools that we all have these days, more are doing that and more are being acceptable. So it's, ask. All they can do is say no. So if that's working for you and working for some of you out there, that is a bigger safety net even than having your batteries run out of your recorder during your interview. So again, you've done all these things, you've done your bridge, you've covered yourself and such. Return back to those basics. Return back to that core message. This is my profession. This is my issue. This is the things that we work with. Whatever that core message is, keep coming back to it and repeating it. And here's some tips if you've got questions from the reporter. Here are 3 ways to address any question. Here's the answer to your question, direct. Okay, how many cases have you handled this year? We've handled 10,000 cases this year. Just me by myself. Right? Everybody answers that right? All right. Here's the answer, direct answer, bridging, home base. Here's my direct answer. You should also know this. And then close it with close your answer, coming back to your home base. I don't know, but I will find out. How many cases did you handle this year? There's not just me here. I know I handled 10,000, but I don't know how many the others handled. So let me ask that question, get that information back to you, and I'll follow up. And respond quickly. Again, respond quickly with that follow-up information. I know, but I cannot say. You've got boundaries yourself in your profession. You have certain things you can't talk about. You've got other boundaries. You've got other limitations here. So again, the reporter might not understand that. So when you're saying, I know, but I cannot say, because this in that explanation, again, remind them why you can't say that. Just don't give the appearance of being evasive when you answer with that question. And underscore with critical points, or underscore your critical points, even if it's a print article. If you're doing a live interview with somebody, you can gesture or type this, and maybe in Michael's email responses you can underline or bold or something to emphasize these points that you want to make sure that they emphasize, that they understand what these key points are. Waving your hands like the guy in the picture, doing things that they're going to remember, just like you're going to remember the picture of Elvis and Nixon. You do those things to help drive your points home. And then rinse and repeat. Again, you are referring to your home base, you're referring to your key points over and over again until you feel that they've gotten it, until they understand it. If you say it once, it's just going to be a part of the conversation. If you say it twice, they might remember, well, we were kind of animate about that. He was kind of gesticulating a little bit when he was talking about that point. Well, by the 3rd time you say it, they're going to get it. And by the 2nd time you see this slide, you're going to remember that you need to rinse and repeat. Always repeat back to what your key message is until they get it. I'm more of a Garnier fruit tea smile myself when it comes to the shampoos. I don't know if they still make it hurt. I don't know. Stock photos are weird sometimes. And support your issue, but don't get married to it. This was a rule we always taught people when they were coming through the legislature, whether they were elected or staff or whatever. If might be important. It might be something that you know, some mentor of yours, your parent, whatever, you're deeply connected to it. Don't get married to it because it's going to get shredded and destroyed by the time it finally gets to the governor's desk. You're not even going to recognize it. So don't get married to your issue. And it's the same thing here. Yes, you're dealing with sensitive issues, some issues that might be, you know, get here to the heart even. But don't get emotional. Don't get upset or wound up about this when you're talking to the media, because it's going to take you down, they're going to lead you down some dangerous roads with this. So support your issue with the facts, support your issues with the information, support your issues with the experiences you have, but don't get all wound up about it, because you're going to open yourself up. By the way, this is not the end of this presentation, but at the end of the interview, any reporter worth their salt is going to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to say? Is there anything you'd like to add? Is there any points that we need to cover? They're going to open the door for you to wrap it all up. This is your closing argument with the reporter, okay? By the way, I'm using all of my half a semester of pre-law in this presentation as well. So, anything else to add? Return back to your home base. Bridge out to your key points again. This is your opportunity to do the whole interview in a very short window in one concluding statement. Okay? And that's going to be the thing that's most fresh on their mind after the interview's over. And that's probably where they're going to start with from their notes. So, the message map. By the way, Carroll County's up here, right there, in case you didn't know it, or the old song. Carroll County incident, anybody? Yeah? Anyway, I'm much older than I look. So the message map. The message map, and this is a sample of one that we used for a client. This was actually a political campaign we ran for a half-cent sales tax in Jefferson City. This, and you cannot see this again, we're going to send you the slides. Don't hurt yourself trying to squint to read the small print. But I'm using this as the illustration to show you how it works. This is your home base right here. Saying yes to the transformation half-cent sales tax means a $40 million 10-year investment in a citizen-designed and citizen-managed roadmap of more than 30 projects which will improve our quality of place, secure our city's long-term economic vitality, and be the catalyst for revitalizing our community's core. That was way too many words. But there was 40 projects in this thing, so we had to answer a lot of questions with our home base statement. So here's our home base. Then it comes out here to our key points. This next ring of circles here is your key point, is your first level of key points. The facts about the half-cent transformation sales tax. What if they choose not to invest in the community? What if the tax fails, which it did, by the way? So all of these became very important. Improving quality of place through key projects. This was where we got into what the projects were. Supporters, who's supporting this? Well, here's the chamber, here's the campaign committee, here's the citizens, and then this would go out, and we actually went out to great big lists that we would always have of all these people who signed on to support this, put their name on the line, the businesses, the contributors, etc. So you can see here through this illustration how this works. You get your center home base, then you're bridging here. All these arrows are bridging, and these arrows, although it's not illustrated here, go both ways. Okay? So you start at your home base, you're bridging out to your key point, you're bridging out to the finer points of it, and then you're going to bring it back through the whole process again to answer the media questions. You see how that would work? See similarities to how this works, to how you all work in the courtroom or in your processes here? It's the same thing. Just don't treat the interviewer as a hostile witness. It's amazing they taught us about hostile witnesses in the first semester, isn't it? Okay, so rules to live by. Hang on. You're always on the record. If you fell asleep in this presentation, you are currently on the record. That videotape back there, or that video back there, falling asleep in this presentation. If you were having idle chatter during lunch and somebody overheard you, you were on the record. It's going to, if things you say, you're on the clock 24/7. You know that. The reporters are as well. The media, whoever's got 2 ears, is can overhear what you're saying, what you're doing, what you're what profession's doing, what your office is doing, etc. And you're always on the record. So be aware that when you ask somebody, well, this is background information, or this is off the record, that doesn't exist. And even if they do have journalistic ethics and they will apply to that, at some point somebody's going to cross the line and report on stuff that you said was off the record. You're always on the record. Be aware of your impact. Again, going back to your example, saying yes or no to that one, to giving that short answer to that question, got her in some hot water, okay? Your audience, we're connecting to those audiences again. Your audience is one person, or it's the entire circulation of the media outlet, the entire radio listening base. Somebody's going to hear that and be impacted by what you're saying. And hopefully it's going to be a positive impact. But somewhere along the line, something you're going to say is going to come back to get you professionally. It's just going to happen. It happens to everybody. So be aware of what you're saying and how it could impact everything else in your world, in your profession, and so forth. So be aware. They also hold wrestling in this room on the weekends. That's where I got this picture from, in case you recognize the room. Have honesty. Be honest with the press and be honest with the public. Again, if you're being dodgy, evasive, stretching the truth, hiding the truth, they're going to find out, and it's going to come back to get you as well. This is kind of a series of got you kind of things. So if you're honest with them up front, if you're open as much as you can be up front with the press, and with the readers, with the audiences, they're going to trust you. You're going to build a trusting relationship and a trusting interview. Okay? Have the information to back you up. Again, talking about the statistics, the data, the information, the mechanics of the case, the mechanics of how the office works, all this type of stuff. If you start stretching it, if you start doing things that they can look up themselves, they have Google as well. My grandpa used to always say, real life deserves a good stretch. My grandpa didn't have Google. So have the information to back you up, or again, it's going to come back to get you. Don't pick fights. The old adage in journalism and media used to be, don't pick fights with people who buy in by the barrel. Well, they buy in by the rail car now, and if they're still publishing, don't pick fights with people who have bandwidth, which is everybody. Okay. In our profession, whether it's public defenders or our political candidates or business owners, things like that, people get themselves in trouble all the time by responding to folks who are trying to pick fights or picking fights with editors, all sorts of instances. Just pick up a paper or look at any kind of website and you'll see in the news where people are picking fights with people they should be picking fights with. And it gets them in trouble. Nobody wins, except whoever's getting the clicks, whoever's getting the web clicks, or selling the newspapers and such. So don't pick fights with people. Report your own bad news first. This is very, very important. I don't know what kind of bad news you guys could be dealing with. A budget shortfall in your office. It's just one I pulled out of the air. If you've got a budget shortfall in your office, don't wait until it's time to have the report to to the state about what happened to the funds or what happened to whatever. Come out with a statement with your message map and your bridges, your key points, etc. How this happened, why this happened, how it's not going to happen again, what's being done to investigate how it happened, etc. Answer all those points. Report your own bad news first. Because if you report your own bad news first, you're going to find out that it's a much friendlier media environment for the situation in the beginning. And if there's more bad news behind that bad news, well, it could get a little stickier. But you've already reported your bad news up front the first time, and the audience is kind of said, well, okay, they're working on it. Or this is not right, but they're working on it. It's being addressed. You're going to find it to be a much more positive audience experience and media experience if you report your own bad news first. So, anybody ever felt something like that? You had to step out and say, oops, there's some sort of curveball or obstacle that encounters, your office encounters, of course, talk to the, that's the issue that you need to run up the chain to Michael. Or on the weekends, to Joel. So, everyone is the media. The hostess who is serving you lunch is the media. The guy next to you in the bar tonight is the media. By the way, I recommend the bar here. When I was here as a high school senior, it was awesome. Everyone is the media because everybody's got this video camera, digital recorder, and broadcast machine right there in the palm of their hands. In the palm of his hands there in the red shirt. He's doing it right now. Anything, as he said, anything you do is on the record. So if you've got cases, you've got management issues, you've got whether they're positive or negative, these are the type of things that people can overhear and take and run with. When I was writing this, I was thinking, and this is a question more than a statement, in the work that you all are doing, the clients that you all are representing, have you ever had to deal with families and friends who didn't like the way things were going and took to social media to start talking about the case in public? They're the media. Whether they're right, wrong, or somewhere in the middle, they're putting words out there that are impacting audiences and creating a perception of you, the way the case is being handled, your office, the public defender system, the justice system as a whole. Everybody who is out there as media is impacting somebody's mind and perception about the way things work. Now, I'm not going to give you some silver bullet that says this is the way you control that. But what I'm going to say is that you have to be mindful of that if you aren't already, and be aware and keep your ears on or what people are saying about your work, your profession, the cases, etc. that are going on out there. Because these conversations are happening whether you realize it or not. What was I thinking when I ended on a down point? No. Final thoughts. Any questions first off? Any questions? You guys got this? Down pat? I'd like to introduce you to 60 Minutes. The crew's coming in. Yes, sir.
Now, I said about Wagner before, but it's interesting. A lot of your concepts is what we already do in trial work, which is kind of a neat way to think of it. The core message, the home basis of theory of innocence, and try to get people's priors out first with the jury bad news. So it's kind of interesting, the similarities you see in what you're talking about and what we naturally follow.
Yeah, it's that's one of the secrets of life. Everything's kind of the same. There are patterns and processes to everything. Whether airline pilots have checklists that they run to check the plane before they take off. Or at least I hope they're doing it. You all have your procedures that you follow. When you're talking about the media, on both sides of the media, the reporters are pretty much following the same path as well. They know what their question. They know what the issue is. They start writing their questions. They know what they're going to ask and how they're going to bridge back to do the follow-ups. So it's very, a lot of these techniques are very similar in a lot of different professions.
Just emphasizing the bad at the beginning, though, one thing we worry about with that is it emphasize it too much. Does it frame the story around the negative to begin with? I see the point about getting it out first, but we also think maybe we shouldn't do that all the time because it frames it too much around that. So I was wondering your thoughts.
My thought on that would be if you have a negative message, you get a bad news message, develop your key points around that you can bridge. This happened, but you should also know these protections have been put in place for the budget. You should also know that our defense rate is this, or our satisfaction score, or something, some sort of backup information you can say. All the clients we've had, this has been their happiness level. Something like that. Yeah, exactly. So you get your bad news here, report that, and be able to bridge, be able to take it to a positive level in a follow-up, if it's available. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. There was a story that we were involved with once where somebody of influence got a D-dub on a Friday night, and we found out about it right away, and Saturday morning. So we were like, okay, this bad thing happened. He's taking accountability. Bridge out to the good news. The good key point here of he's in therapy now. He's going to take care of the situation. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was harmed. It was just, he was driving, and it was a ticket and arrest involved. Take care of the situation. Apologize. These are the measures that are going to take place to fulfill his professional responsibilities. That happened on a Friday. Generally, Sunday is your big political newspaper. You think your Sunday talk shows, your Sunday political news is in the newspaper. It was a bottom line mention in the weekly report. Oh, this happened. Our thoughts are with them. I mean, it was actually the columnist was actually a positive message to it because we reported bad news. The situation was taken care of and addressed, and being transparent, open, and honest with the whole situation. So there's ways to handle the bad news sometimes. Exactly. So again, how about no? What do we say to no? No. We're not going to say no's. We're not going to do short, succinct answers to the questions. We're going to try to elaborate, add our key points, get back to our main message. Never say no, which is a double negative, which means it's a positive, according to algebra. I never understood that part. That's why I make words and pictures. And again, if I can leave you with anything, it's this. The outside perception is always going to be greater than the inside reality. You might have the tightest ship in the world, but if some blabbermouth with a Twitter account has it on as against public defenders, they're going to paint the perception of public defenders and the justice system as a whole to their audience. And you'll never convince them. They're now falling into your hate audience. You might have, and I found this to be true as I've gone through life, the grass is never greener on the other side. The outside perception of a lot of organizations is that they're tightly run ships. Keep the water out. Until you get inside, it's leaking everywhere. It's full of rats. So the outside perception is always greater than the inside reality. And it's especially true if you get into a situation where you are in front of reporters. So you need to be to remember everything we talked about here. Your home base, reach to your key points, keep it honest, and you're going to have a good outside perception of your internal reality. So with that, Taffy, who was mentioned before, says that's all, folks. Oh, look, Taffy just won. And I need to take the audio off that slide. If you have any questions at any time, guys, I've got cards and stuff too, but hit me up online at Rocket Proof. I'll be glad to help you anytime we can. Appreciate your time.